Hide and seek was meant to be a game, but in these terrifying tales, it becomes a trap.
I'll go first.
The summer night was hot and restless, and a group of teenagers decided to play hide and seek in the abandoned Miller house at the edge of town. The house was said to be haunted, but that only made the game more exciting. There were 6 of them: David, Maria, Sam, Kelly, Jonah, and little Emily, who was the youngest and most eager to prove she wasn't afraid. David, the oldest, grinned as he set the rules. No running outside, no hiding in the basement, one seeker, everyone else hides. Whoever is found last wins. Emily's eyes sparkled. What about the attic? David smirked. If you're brave enough. They laughed nervously, but no one wanted to admit the attic scared them most. Maria covered her eyes and began to count loudly. 1, 2, 3. The others scattered. Feet thudded against the dusty wooden floors. Doors creaked as they opened and shut. The house swallowed their footsteps, the silence returning far too quickly. Emily dashed upstairs, her heart racing. She wanted the attic. If she could win by hiding in the scariest place, the others would never tease her again. She pulled down the old ladder, wincing at its groan, and climbed up. Dust fell like ash as she entered the attic, the smell of mildew thick in the air. She crouched behind an old trunk, pressing her hand over her mouth to keep from giggling. 10, ready or not, here I come. Maria's voice echoed faintly through the house. Emily listened to the muffled sounds below. Maria opening doors, friends stifling laughter. Then she heard footsteps in the attic. Slow, heavy dragging. Emily froze. She hadn't heard the ladder creak. She peeked over the trunk, expecting to see Maria. Instead, she saw a tall shadow standing near the far wall. It wasn't moving, just watching. Her chest tightened. "Maria," she whispered. The figure didn't answer. She ducked back down, her tiny hands trembling. Maybe it was Jonah trying to scare her. Maybe. The footsteps came closer, steady and deliberate. Emily squeezed her eyes shut. Then suddenly silence. Downstairs, Maria had already found Jonah and Sam hiding in a closet. They laughed and teased each other. But when Maria counted the players, she frowned. Where's Emily? They checked the living room, the kitchen, even the forbidden basement door. No Emily. She's probably in the attic, David said, shaking his head. That kid doesn't listen. They climbed the stairs together. The ladder to the attic was still pulled down. Maria went up first, calling Emily's name. But the attic was empty. The trunk Emily hid behind was open now, and inside lay a small torn piece of her dress. Kelly shivered. She's messing with us. She has to be. But then they heard it. A faint whisper, like a child's voice, coming from the walls. Found you. The group froze. Emily? Sam called, his voice shaking. Found you? The whisper repeated, now closer, as if right behind them. They turned, but no one was there. The ladder slammed shut on its own, leaving them trapped in the attic. Panic broke out. They pounded on the trapdoor, but it wouldn't budge. The whisper turned into laughter, high-pitched, distorted, echoing from every corner of the attic. Play again. Play forever. Shadows stretched across the walls, shapes of children with hollow eyes and twisted smiles. Dozens of them. One by one, the teenagers screamed as the shadows closed in. Their cries were swallowed by the darkness until only silence remained. The next morning, the Miller house stood quiet, as always. The ladder was back in place, the trunk shut tight. But if anyone dared to climb into the attic, they might hear it too. Soft giggles in the dark, children whispering, "Ready or not, here we come." The night was cool and quiet when Angelica and her cousins gathered at her grandmother's old farmhouse. With no electricity and only lanterns to light the rooms, boredom crept in quickly. Someone suggested playing hide and seek. "Let's make it more fun," Angelica said with a daring smile. "We'll play outside, in the woods." Her younger cousin Mark shook his head. "Grandma says never go past the tree line at night." "That's just an old story," Angelica laughed. "She only says that to scare us." The others hesitated, but in the end, the thrill of the game pulled them into the dark trees. Angelica was chosen as the seeker. She pressed her hands to the rough bark of a tree, closed her eyes, and began to count. 1, 2, 3. Behind her, she heard giggles and the sound of running feet crunching leaves. Branches snapped as her cousins darted into the woods, eager to find the best hiding spots. 10, ready or not, here I come. Angelica opened her eyes. The forest loomed around her, black shadows shifting under the pale moon. She held the lantern high, its glow spilling just a few feet ahead. She found Mark quickly, crouched behind a log, trying not to breathe too loudly. He joined her as a helper, and together they searched deeper. "Where's Emily?" Angelica whispered. Mark shrugged. "She's always good at hiding." The woods felt colder the farther they went. The lantern flame trembled in the wind, and with it came a sound, like children giggling, but not from her cousins. Angelica froze. "Did you hear that?" Mark nodded, his small face pale. It sounded close. They pushed forward, calling softly for Emily. Instead, they found Kelly standing behind a tree, completely still, facing away from them. "There you are!" Angelica laughed in relief, walking closer. But Kelly didn't move. Her head was tilted at an unnatural angle, like she was listening to something in the distance. "Kelly?" Angelica said, her voice shaky. Slowly, Kelly turned her head. Her eyes were blank, and her smile stretched too wide, too sharp. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. Angelica stumbled back, grabbing Mark's hand. "Run!" They ran blindly through the woods, but the forest twisted around them. No matter which way they turned, the trees seemed to close in. The giggling grew louder, surrounding them, coming from everywhere at once. Shapes moved between the trunks. Children, pale and thin, with empty eyes. They darted from tree to tree, never fully stepping into the lantern light. Mark whimpered. "They're playing too." Angelica realized the truth. These weren't her cousins. Something else had joined the game. Suddenly, Emily appeared, running toward them. Relief washed over Angelica, until she saw Emily's feet weren't touching the ground. She floated just above the soil, her eyes black, her mouth whispering, "Found you, found you." The lantern flickered wildly, and in its dying glow, Angelica saw the others too. Her cousins, all standing among the trees, their faces twisted into the same unnatural smile as Kelly. They chanted together, their voices overlapping like a broken record. "Play again, play forever." The lantern went out. When Angelica's grandmother came out the next morning, she found the lantern lying just outside the tree line. The glass was cracked, the flame long dead. The children were gone. Only faint footprints led into the woods, but none came back out. That night, when the wind blew through the trees, the old woman swore she heard children laughing. And if you stand there long enough, some say you can hear a young girl's voice whispering from the dark. Ready or not, you can't hide. It started as a dare. At a Saturday night sleepover, 4 friends, Clara, Jessica, Ryan, and Matt, gathered in Clara's basement. The air smelled faintly of damp concrete, and only a single lamp glowed in the corner. Jessica smirked as she pulled out her phone. "I read online that if you play hide and seek in front of a mirror, you can summon something." Ryan rolled his eyes. "That's just creepypasta nonsense." But Matt leaned forward. "What kind of something?" Jessica grinned. "They call it the Other Seeker. If you start the game in front of a mirror at midnight, it joins in, and if it finds you first..." She paused for effect. "You don't come back." Clara laughed nervously. "That's stupid, but let's do it." They set Clara's full-length mirror against the basement wall. The glass was old, edges chipped, reflecting the dim glow of the lamp. At 11:59, they stood in front of it, holding hands. Jessica whispered the instructions. "Close your eyes. Count to 10. Say, 'Come seek us.'" When the clock struck midnight, they followed the rules. Their voices blended, shaky but playful. "Come seek us." Then they ran, giggling, scattering into the dark corners of the house. Clara, heart racing, squeezed herself into the coat closet upstairs, pressing her back against hanging jackets. She listened. The game had begun. At first, Clara heard her friends' soft laughter as they tried to hide. Then, silence. Creak. Footsteps echoed in the hall. Too slow, too heavy. Not like Jessica's quick shuffle or Ryan's sneakers. Clara held her breath. Through the crack in the closet door, she saw a shadow glide across the hall. It was tall, distorted, moving as if its joints bent the wrong way. Her skin prickled. She wanted to believe it was one of the others playing a trick, but deep down she knew. This wasn't them. A sudden scream split the silence. Matt's voice, sharp and terrified, cut off too quickly. Then nothing. Clara shook, her hands clamped over her mouth. Another creak. The shadow stopped outside her closet. Slowly, the door handle turned. "No," she whispered under her breath. The door opened just an inch. She saw it. An arm, thin and pale, too long, its fingers stretching like claws. A single milky white eye peeked through the gap. Clara panicked. She shoved hard against the door, slamming it shut. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. The footsteps retreated. She waited. After what felt like forever, Clara pushed out of the closet. The house was too quiet. No laughter, no voices, only the ticking of the wall clock. She tiptoed back to the basement. The mirror stood where they left it, but the reflection wasn't right. In the glass, she saw herself, except she wasn't moving. Her reflection stood smiling, hands behind its back like it was hiding something. Clara's knees went weak. "Ryan, Jessica," she called, her voice cracking. A whisper answered, not from the room but from inside the mirror. "Found them?" The reflection stepped forward, pressing its palm against the glass. The surface rippled like water. Behind it, Clara saw shapes. Jessica, Ryan, and Matt, faces pale, eyes hollow, pressed against the mirror as though trapped inside. "No!" Clara gasped. "This isn't real!" Her reflection tilted its head, grinning wider. Then it whispered, "Your turn." The lights flickered. The basement door slammed shut behind her. Clara bolted, racing up the stairs, but the air grew thick, heavy, as though the house itself was fighting her escape. Her reflection's laugh echoed from every wall, distorted and sharp. "Run, little hider!" She stumbled into the living room, trying to catch her breath. For a moment, she thought she was safe, until the TV screen lit up on its own. Her reflection stared out from the static, whispering, "Found you." The windows darkened, the lamps shattered. Shadows stretched long across the floor, chasing her no matter where she turned. Clara's scream filled the house, but no neighbors came. By morning, her parents found the basement empty. The mirror stood tall against the wall, its surface cloudy, like smoke trapped inside the glass. And if anyone dared to look closely, they could see them. 4 faint faces pressed against the mirror, mouths open in silent screams. Clara's reflection stood among them, smiling, eyes alive, waiting for someone new to say the words again. "Come seek us." Everyone at Ridgewood Middle School knew the legend. If you played hide and seek in the school after midnight, you wouldn't be playing alone. The Midnight Seeker would join the game. Most kids laughed it off, but for Lucas, Tasha, Brian, and Ivy, the legend was the perfect test of courage. On the last day of the school year, they dared each other to sneak inside. Lucas picked the back door lock with his father's old pocket knife. The hall smelled faintly of dust and bleach, the air unusually still without the buzz of students. "Creepy," Ivy whispered, clutching her backpack. Brian smirked. "It's just a building. We'll play one round, prove the story's fake, and go home." "Fine," Tasha said. "But we stick together if anything feels off." They gathered in the gym. The moonlight streaming through high windows left long shadows on the basketball court. "Okay," Lucas said, pretending confidence. "1 seeker, 3 hiders. We'll do 10 counts." "Who seeks first?" Ivy asked. They pulled straws from Ivy's notebook. Brian drew the shortest one. He groaned but grinned. "All right, 10 seconds. Don't cry when I find you." He turned to face the wall and began to count. 1, 2, 3. The others scattered into the dark halls. Lucas slipped into the library, crouching between tall shelves. Ivy hurried upstairs toward the science lab, while Tasha ducked into the girls' locker room. Brian's footsteps echoed faintly as he searched. He called out playfully, "Ready or not, here I come." For a while, it felt like a normal game. Lucas nearly laughed when Brian passed the library without noticing him. He could hear Ivy giggling faintly upstairs. But then came another sound, footsteps, not Brian's. He was on the far side of the gym, his sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. These steps were heavier, slower, coming from the main hallway. Lucas froze. He peeked through the shelf gaps. In the faint moonlight, he saw it. A tall figure gliding down the hall. Its skin was gray, stretched tight, its arms too long, fingertips dragging along the lockers with a metallic screech. Its head jerked side to side, as if sniffing for prey. Lucas's stomach dropped. The Midnight Seeker. It stopped outside the library. Slowly, its head twisted until its blank face stared straight at him. Lucas ducked behind the shelf, his chest heaving. He heard it whisper, low and drawn out. "Found you." Meanwhile, Ivy crouched in the science lab, hugging her knees. She thought she heard Lucas moving, but when she peeked, no one was there. Instead, she saw the lab's skeleton model slowly turn its head toward her. She yelped and bolted down the hall. Back in the gym, Brian found Tasha hiding. She punched his shoulder in relief. "Finally, let's end this game." But when they called for Lucas and Ivy, no one answered. "Guys, game's over," Brian shouted, his voice echoing. Only silence replied. Then faintly, giggling from somewhere deep in the school. Tasha frowned. That didn't sound like them. They split up against their better judgment. Brian checked the library while Tasha ran upstairs. Brian pushed through the swinging library doors. The place was empty, but the air smelled foul, like rust and rot. On the table nearest him lay Lucas's phone, its screen cracked, camera open, recording nothing but static. "Lucas?" Brian whispered. A shadow moved between the shelves, too tall, too thin. Its arm bent backward unnaturally as it reached for him. Brian dropped the phone and ran. Upstairs, Tasha heard him scream. She sprinted down the hall, only to stop short when she saw Ivy. Except, it wasn't Ivy. Her cousin's figure stood stiffly at the far end, her mouth twisted into a jagged grin, eyes hollow black pits. "Come hide with me," she whispered. Tasha stumbled back. "You're not Ivy." The figure twitched and darted forward at impossible speed. Tasha and Brian collided at the stairwell, both pale and panicked. "It's not Ivy, it's not her," Tasha gasped. "It's not Lucas either," Brian stammered. "Something's here." They fled down the stairs together, hearts pounding. The gym doors slammed shut ahead of them, locking with a loud clang. The lights flickered and went out, plunging them into moonlit shadows. From the dark hallway, a voice whispered, sing-song and mocking, "Ready or not, here I come." The air turned ice cold. The floor creaked as the thing stalked closer, its long arms brushing the walls. They pressed against the gym wall, trying to stay quiet, but the seeker could hear their breaths. The creature stepped into the pale moonlight, its faceless head tilting as if listening. Behind it, faint figures appeared, Lucas and Ivy, or what was left of them, faces pale, smiles frozen, eyes dark voids. Brian grabbed Tasha's hand. "Run on 3. 1. The seeker raised its hand. 2. The shadow figures whispered together, hundreds of voices overlapping. "Play forever." 3. They bolted for the emergency exit. For a moment, it seemed they might make it, but as Tasha pushed the door, she realized Brian wasn't behind her. She turned. The seeker had him, its long fingers wrapped around his neck, dragging him backward into the dark. His scream echoed, then cut off. The door flung open, and Tasha stumbled into the night, collapsing on the grass, sobbing under the stars. The next morning, the janitor found the gym doors wide open. Inside, only silence remained. 3 backpacks lay on the floor, along with a phone playing endless static. But on the polished gym floor, 4 sets of footprints led toward the shadows at the far end. Only 3 stopped. The 4th kept going, dragging marks across the wood, vanishing into the wall. And now, students whisper that if you listen in the halls after dark, you'll hear children giggling, followed by a chilling voice echoing from nowhere. "Ready or not, I'll find you."